Have you ever looked at an eldritch abomination and said to yourself, dang, I wish that was me? I mean, whomst amongst us hasn't felt like they could use a few extra eyeballs, extra joints, or a couple tentacles? Well, I have amazing news, because there is an entire species of horrible aberrant creatures that you can use to create both player characters and NPCs in D&D 5th edition. Today we are talking about a monster that can be an aberrant creature meant to serve the DM as a cosmically horrific villain, or a player character option that can be a cosmically horrific villain, a vengeful hero, a cursed wanderer, and so much more. Allow me to introduce you to the Enigmites. Enigmites are a creature type that is technically from the future, as they come from a book that isn't officially out just yet. They are from the newest Battlezoo Ancestries book, and they are extremely cool. The idea behind the Enigmites is that at one point in time, each one of these freaks was a normal adventurer belonging to a normal race of creatures, such as a human, an elf, or maybe even a dwarf perhaps. But through some highly unfortunate cosmic circumstances, they were noticed by an extremely powerful eldritch creature who then did what extremely powerful eldritch creatures do, and more or less messed with their physiology until the end result is what you now see before you. Being transformed into an eldritch abomination is certainly not a cool thing to have happen to you, but not all eldritch entities are created equally. Since Enigmites are designed to be a player species option first and foremost, the game information about them isn't presented in the monster stat block format, but rather as a species option. So looking at the book, we can see at a baseline, all Enigmites have dark vision, a 30-foot move speed, and the aberration creature type, and they're either small or medium in size. Great. But there are 6 different types of Enigmite one can be warped into, each with their own special brand of cosmic horror. Dentates are twisted into a form covered in teeth or spikes, and sometimes even have extra mouths in places on their body where, generally speaking, there shouldn't be a mouth. Impossible Enigmites are called so because their bodies move in ways that shouldn't be possible for someone with the correct amount of joints. They either have way too few or way too many, and as such can easily slip in and out of spaces that would be very difficult for someone with 2 elbows to slip in and out of. Panoptic Enigmites are covered in an amount of eyes that would make any optometrist uncomfortable, making it easy for them to keep an eye on all their enemies at once, and sanguine Enigmites are basically bloodbenders that constantly ooze with viscous red fluid. Tentaculiferous Enigmites have a name that took me 5 takes to get right, and are of course covered in slithering tentacles, which does wonders for reaching things on top of that shelf. Lastly, there are varicose Enigmites, which are covered in bumps and growths that ooze strange fluid, and when they get hit in melee, it's like the world's most unfortunate pimple popping video of all time. These make up the general shapes and body types an Enigmite is likely to have, but when it comes to personality, that can vary just as much as the twisted forms of the creatures themselves. Generally speaking, Enigmites are solitary, lacking any kind of true community or nation on account of the fact that they are created individually by aberrant entities, so there just aren't enough of them to form any kind of true society. But they are, for the most part, incredibly secretive about who and what they are. Whether the individual in question is a hero, a villain, or just some guy, people tend to give you the cold shoulder when they find out you got mouths on your knees. Fortunately for them though, while this terrible transformation might be some type of curse or magical effect, it so fundamentally changes the essence of the creature that they don't trigger as cursed or by magic that can detect such things. This also means that magic which can remove curses cannot restore them to their former shape, as that would be akin to turning a bowl of spaghetti and meatballs back into ground beef, tomatoes, and way too much uncooked pasta. Seriously, how do you know how much pasta to cook? Please tell me if you know. This is true even on a psychological level. Enigmites often end up choosing new names for themselves because being called by their old name fills them with an incredible amount of discomfort. Many Enigmites don't even feel the need to have a name and often end up going by whatever people around choose to call them. And those who do choose a name will usually opt to go with something they feel is indicative of their new role or place in the multiverse, such as Oracle or Forgotten. But when it comes to of how they actually behave and their outlook on life, they break down into 5 different categories, all of which are presented in the book as backgrounds exclusive to the Enigmite species. Ciphers are probably the most miserable of the group, suffering intense feelings of anomie and isolation. They're usually estranged from society, living as hermits, usually becoming sage-like elders or something akin to a cryptid. Paradoxes, on the other hand, despise the cosmic beings that made them in the way they are, and dedicate their lives to subverting their plans and the plans of pretty much all eldritch horrors, especially the ones that created them though. They understand better than anyone how difficult that is to actually do, so they are usually anxious and sleep deprived, knowing that if they slip up even once, overlook one tiny detail, don't give it 110%, they could be completely undone by the cosmic forces against which they rebel. Perplexities are the total opposite, worshipping their creators, and are very likely to have undergone their transformation into an aberration willingly. These are the zealots and cultists of the Enigmite world, bowing to the will of their eldritch masters without hesitation. Puzzles, by far the most cheerful of the Enigmites, don't really fall hard on one side or the other, and are entirely obsessed with solving every challenge as it is presented to them. Sometimes this is an intense curiosity and search for understanding, other times it can be a self-destructive and obsessive journey into forbidden knowledge and the unknown. Lastly, there are the quandaries, who are similar to puzzles in that they enjoy solving problems, however they are less interested in the intellectual and obsessive angle that the puzzles approach things from most of the time. And this means that they don't really seek out forbidden knowledge just for the sake of it, but rather seek to solve difficult problems and overcome impossible obstacles. The more difficult the situation, the more invested they're liable to become. Aside from the perplexities, who are more or less entirely devoted to the forces that created them, Enigmites can fall anywhere on the spectrum of cooperation or rebellion against their creators, and beyond that, anywhere on the spectrum of good and evil or law and chaos. However, even if they choose to abandon their creator's will, in some cases actively seeking to subvert it, something to keep in mind is that as beings created by these greater eldritch entities, they may be unknowingly fulfilling the purpose of their creator as set forth for them, even if they believe that they're fighting against them. This can be a really fun type of character to play because it not only allows the DM to weave in some twists and turns along a character's journey, it also gives the player a lot to work with in terms of what kind of story they want to tell, and that's not even getting into the NPCs a DM can create using this species. An Enigmite can fit right into the classic scholar of forbidden knowledge trope that is present in a lot of media which inspires aberrant creatures like this. Or perhaps you create a character who is seeking to have their form restored back to normal. I mean, sure, it can't be changed by a remove curse spell, but surely a powerful deity could give a new body to a devoted follower. Or maybe they embrace their new powers, seeking to use them for either good or evil, but in either case, a character who simply revels in the abilities granted by some unknowable entity can always be fun. There are so many ways you can pair this species with a class to elevate that idea to the next level as well. A Vengeance Paladin Paradox Enigmite who wants to destroy the entity that made them the way they are is an awesome character to play or encounter as an NPC. Or if you want to lean into the cosmic horror of it all, an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer could be incredibly cool flavor. Or if you want to have even more of an intense relationship with the eldritch entity that reshaped you, a Great Old One Warlock, either working for or against their patron's will, could be really neat as well. And if you have a player in your game who wants to become an Enigmite, or they have something go horribly wrong while trying to interfere with the plans of a cosmic entity, maybe that player's character is transformed into one of these things. If the party fails in some kind of big showdown with an aberration, perhaps instead of a simple TPK or one of the party members dying, they are transformed into this eldritch creature. And if the player wants to just leave them dead, that's fine. They can roll up a new character, but now you have an NPC to do some interesting stuff with. I also really like the concept of using an unconventional base species as the point for this character's beginning. For example, maybe you were a warforged that was twisted into some kind of fleshy abomination, half man, half machine, entirely terrible to look at. That seems kinda impossible and very uncanny, but impossible and uncanny is exactly where ancient cosmic horrors shine. So obviously I wanted to make a character using these rules to see how they would all come together, and as a forever DM, I decided to create an NPC for my game, and when trying to decide what I wanted to create, I had an idea. Back in October, I made a video about a monster called a tsochar. They are these terrible little eel-like colonies of organisms that form one big creature and then invade people's bodies and either control them from the inside or bore out their nervous system and wear them like a fancy suit. I'm not gonna get way into all that here. There's a 20-minute video about them that you can check out if you want. They're pretty cool, but something people in the comments of that video were discussing, which I thought was a neat idea, is the concept of playing a tsochari character. I mean, you'd basically just be playing an aberration living inside of a body which you stole, which would be an easy enough thing to simply roleplay without any actual game rules beyond however you want to flavor your class abilities, but I figured the Enigmite was a great opportunity to try my hand at making a tsochar character who actually felt like a weird alien aberration piloting around a stolen human corpse. In the old 3.5 book where the tsochari come from, there is a piece of art depicting a tsochar infested human doing some creepy tsochar infested human stuff, and I used this as inspiration for my build. I figured 9 was a good level to go up to, and as we all know from watching the tsochari video, they are extremely religious aberrations who all worship an eldritch entity known as the nine-tongued worm. So I decided to make a knowledge domain cleric because I felt like that tied in nicely with the tsochar's theme of stealing magical secrets. A tentaculiferous enigmite is going to give us those grasping tendrils, which is very important to our tsochar character, and it gives us the gather tentacles ability, which allows you to extend your reach by 5 feet as a bonus action on your turn, or up to 10 if you make your other arm useless for the round. So that felt really fun. Now I wanted to use as many of the Enigmite rules as I could, which includes something we haven't yet touched on. In the Battlezoo Ancestries book, there are unique feats, and you get to choose a first level feat as one of the traits you get for being an Enigmite. Also, from all 5 of the backgrounds provided, you can take an origin feat from the Core 2024 5 ebook, as you typically would, or you can instead choose another first level Enigmite feat. The Enigmite feats are all really neat and meant to make it feel like you're actually playing this weird aberrant creature, and they're all really well balanced in my opinion with the rest of the game, so it's not like a min-max central situation over here, but you're also not sacrificing a ton of power just to enjoy the cool flavor. Obviously, since we're making a tsochar cleric of the nine-tongued worm, our background was gonna be as a perplexity, which gave us a little stat bump to strength and con along with the enigmatic magic origin feat, which is basically the magic initiate feat, except it doesn't allow you to change the spells you've selected when you level up. However, the upside is that you are not limited to a specific spell list. You get 2 cantrips and a first level spell from any spell list. So this gave us access to Arms of Hadar, which just felt appropriate, along with Mind Sliver, and one of the most important spells for this build, True Strike. If you're playing D&D 2014, that probably sounded weird. Do not take True Strike here, it might be the worst spell ever printed, but in the 2024 rules, it grants a little bump in damage to your attack, and lets us swing using wisdom instead of strength with our mace. So that's rad. As for our second first level feat granted by our species, I chose the Mortal Guise feat, which basically allows you to use a bonus action to shift between your aberrant true form and a masquerade of the humanoid form you once were before becoming an Enigmite. And since that is like the whole deal with the tsochari, it seemed like an obvious take. At 4th level, I gave them the Unnatural Resilience feat, which of course bumps an ability score up by 1 and gives them advantage on saving throws made to end an effect or condition which has been placed upon them. And finally, at 8th level, they got the Thoughts Best Left Undisturbed feat, which bumps a score and gives them the Intrusive Thoughts trait, which is super fun. This trait makes it so that anytime someone charms our character or initiates telepathic communication, this character can force the creature to make a wisdom saving throw, dealing a number of d6s in psychic damage equal to double our proficiency bonus, which at level 9 is +4, so that's a total of 8d6 psychic damage going in the direction of anyone who dares try to comprehend or control our mind, saving for half. Then it was just a matter of choosing spells, adding the spells granted by our domain, and filling in the rest of the cleric abilities. As a level 9 character, I also felt like we should probably give him a couple magic items, so a Vicious Mace, which is rare, and a +1 shield, which is only uncommon, didn't feel like overkill. Last thing we needed was a name, so I dubbed this horrible cleric of the Far Realm Witness. I formatted this character into a stat block, which I will leave linked in the description down below, so if you want to use him for any nefarious purpose, you know where to find them. There are so many more amazing feat options and even some bespoke spells in this book that I just didn't have time to go over in a single video. So if you want to use the Enigmite at your game table, either as a GM or as a player, head on over to the Battlezoo Ancestries Year of Mysteries Kickstarter today and check it out for yourself. The way they release content for these books is always so much fun, because if you back the Kickstarter, you don't have to just wait around for a year to get all that shiny new game stuff. Instead, you get a new species PDF release every month, which includes the character species rules for both 5e and Pathfinder 2nd edition, unique feat progression, backgrounds, new spells, and anything else the Battlezoo team has cooked up, along with custom digital tokens to use with your VTT of choice, or just to look at because they're cool. There are even options in there to get Foundry modules, animated tokens, and battle maps themed around each month's new species for use in pretty much any virtual tabletop. This year being the Year of Mysteries, they're also doing a special event. All backers will have a new puzzle to solve each month, and by doing so, you'll not only get your name on the leaderboards, but also receive a special reward at the end of the year if you solve all 12 mysteries along the way. Today's monster, the Enigmite species, is a bit of a weirdo in more ways than just the obvious weirdo-ness, because they're actually the 13th species option, which means they will be available in December of 2026 as a special bonus to celebrate the end of the year. But if you back the Kickstarter before it's over, you don't gotta wait, because they'll be released in January for backers alongside the first new species of the year, which is the Will-O-Wisp. Roll for Combat has consistently been putting out tons of super fun stuff for both GMs and players, and the Year of Mysteries is not something you're gonna wanna miss. Turi. Is that anything? So as I said, if you want to check it out, click the link down below and take a look for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. We've still got a couple more videos coming up on the channel before we enter the Year of Mysteries, but that's all I got for you this week. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then.